On this week's episode, it's another edition of Portugal Property Talks, and I'm joined once again by the chairman of the Leisure Launch Group, David Patricio. This week, we discuss appointing a realtor. For those of you listening, head over to our YouTube channel to watch some of this episode. And for those of you watching, click down below and subscribe. And for the full podcast episode, head over to Stitcher, Google, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And now, over to my conversation with David. Welcome back, or welcome to another episode of Portugal, the Simple Life. And it's another edition of Portugal Property Talks. I'm once again joined by David Patricio, chairman of the Leisure Launch Group. David, how are you?
I'm good, Dylan. And how are you? We're having a beautiful day today. My God, it's nice and sunny and beautiful. Lovely time. Great time to be in Portugal.
Great time. Always is, but it's always nicer when the sun's shining. Speaking of real estate shows, when we go with Emo Portugal to the Netherlands and to Belgium. Mm-hmm. We go Portugal Realty to the UK. Tell me about those fancy badges you've got on your...
We're going to talk more about this today, but this is my realtor badge. I'm a qualified realtor, although I'm not a practicing one. I'm a qualified realtor, and then I've also got the CIPS designation, which is the International Realtors designation. I'm a firm believer. We'll talk more about it, but I'm a firm believer in setting standards in our industry and professionalism in our industry. So even though I don't practice, I'm not a practicing realtor, I continue to educate myself. I think the day you stop educating yourself is the day that you begin to die. So that's my theory. So yes, I proudly wear my realtor's badge, especially.
I'm getting one soon. As a lot of our listeners know, Emo Portugal and Portugal Realtor are two of the prominent real estate companies here on the Silver Coast. That's who we go to these shows with. Speaking of realtors, why should somebody appoint a realtor in the first place?
Just like why should someone appoint a lawyer? Why should someone appoint a good brain surgeon? It's just because these people are specialists in the area that we are not. In other words, I'm busy. I'm an accountant for argument's sake. I'm an accountant when it comes to anything related to tax issues, accounting, etc. I'm a professional. I only buy houses probably 2 or 3 times in my life. If I'm more successful, maybe 4 times in my life. But these are probably decisions that I will make every 10 years. It makes so much more sense for me that you go to a professional who knows the market, knows the area, and they who do this every single day will help guide you through the process. So for me, in every area that I deal with, it doesn't actually matter what it is. I always look for the professional in that area.
Let's talk about appointing a realtor. Let's just talk about a couple of tips that you can give to people that they should do or should think about when appointing a realtor.
Yeah, I would say there's probably 3 main categories or points that you should be looking for. I would say reputation. 1, always look for a professional realtor, one that's been licensed, properly licensed, qualified. But then there is a core of really professional realtors who have dedicated their professional lives to working in this industry. This is a really tough industry to be in. And if you really want to set yourself at a high level, it requires a lot of education, a lot of training and continual training, because we live in an environment where nothing is static. Markets change. We have crisis. We have all of these things. All of this needs to be kept up to date on a daily basis. I make it my objective always is to visit the countries from where my clients come from. So I have a very good basic knowledge of how they live in their own country so that I can talk to them in a language that they understand. I know that you do the same, Dylan. But what is important in the Portuguese context is because we are such a small country, we're also a very old country. I often say this to you, we're almost 1,000 years old. We're the oldest country in Europe. Our borders haven't changed in that period. But within the country, there are huge differences between locations. And we're not talking locations an hour or two away. We're talking locations 20 minutes away, 15, 20 minutes. Everything is much more reduced. Everything's much more concentrated. So if you're going to work with a realtor, choose a realtor in the area, in the location that you want to work. So they are specialists in that area.
How important is it to give the time, to give that information up, to let the realtor understand who they are, their family background, what they're looking for? This is so important as well.
Yes, I would start off with how would I approach that? I would just start off with a simple chat. I think it's essential that if you want to, as a buyer, as a property, a potential buyer, you want to, it's essential that you need to trust the realtor so that they can best serve you. But how do you get to that point? Not so complicated. It's not so difficult. Just have a conversation. Have a conversation with them. Say, listen, I don't want to talk property with you first. I would just like to understand who you are and have a conversation. Who are you? Where do you live? How many children do you have? If you don't have, do you have children or grandchildren? How long have you been in the industry? These kind of questions. Who's your favorite football club? Who knows? They might be supporting the club that you don't like. I mean, making light. But the point is this: you need to initially have a conversation without objectives, a conversation that I'm just trying to understand who the realtor is, who this person is, before the realtors, who this person is who potentially could be my realtor. If you feel that you make a connection with them, just like you would when you walk into any social environment, if you feel that you're making a connection with them, then the next phase is, because you have to trust them. If you don't trust the realtor, if you have an uncomfortable feeling about this person, this human that's sitting on the other side of the desk, on the other side of the telephone, I would say to you, move on, because you probably will never do good business with them. Have this light conversation, then go on to, you have to start to trust them. And if you feel like you do trust them and they are invested in you, it's very often, it will happen that you will meet a realtor who you trust but is not invested in you. So kind of first step is that, do I feel comfortable with the realtor? And second one, is the realtor invested in me? Yeah. And how do we know that they're invested in me? Is they ask those questions that are important to me. Yeah. And if you feel comfortable, the next step would be to answer those honestly, which is always a challenge. We always feel for some reason that the realtor's not on our side. He is. The realtor is always on your side. So you need to trust them. You need to trust your realtor. And when you do trust your realtor can then work for you. That makes sense.
Yeah, and just a side note to that, as from the buyer's perspective, don't be afraid to ask the realtor questions. Where do you live? Why are you in the area? If it's a foreign realtor, why are you? How long have you been here? How long have you been doing this? What do you feel about it? These things are important to
where do your children go to school? Or where do your grandchildren go to school? And if they don't go to school in the place that you're recommending, why?
Yeah.
It's a valid question. If you're telling me, if you're referring me to a school saying that your children can go to that school, my first question would be, but where do your children go to school? And it's possible they don't go to the school in the same area, but he can tell you why. So just test his honesty with you, his or her honesty towards you, so that you can trust them with your information.
I mean, these days with everything being automated and online and everything, there's still nothing replaces a good relationship and a real trustworthy relationship.
We are humans. We like to deal with other humans. There are companies that have gone and tried to replace the realtor. The reality is that they haven't managed to do that. The positive side of it is that realtors have just got better at what they do because they recognize competition. Realtors are probably the most exposed to competition market. There's always a lot of competition in the area. So we know the challenges that we have. And if that realtors invested in constantly improving, constantly getting better, you have the right person.
Well, because I'm a human, and I recognize that this is normally the time that you want to go have your coffee, I'm going to let you call it.
That's a wrap.
So thank you once again to our guest, and thank you to all of you for listening. Please subscribe, share with your friends, give us a thumbs up, and please leave a comment or a review. We always love to hear from you. Don't forget, Portugal The Simple Life also has a magazine, so download it. It's for free. We'll be back next week with a brand new episode, and as we say in Portugal, sejas bem-vindo. Welcome to The Simple Life.